On August 24, 2005, a tropical wave was located east of the Bahamas. Quickly intensifying, the storm made its first landfall over southern Florida, over northern Cuba, and finally along the Gulf Coast region. Today I would like to discuss and inform the public about Hurricane Katrina, its formation and impact regions, detailed accounts of life during the storm, and finally the aftermath that ensued across the Louisiana region. According to the National Hurricane Center's Tropical Cyclone Report, released in December of 2005, Hurricane Katrina made its first landfall over the Miami-Dade County region of southern Florida, impacting local communities with winds upwards of 70 knots, as well as extensive rainfall and some street flooding. The storm quickly reemerged over the Gulf of Mexico and intensified to a Category 5 storm, winds over 150 knots. Storms slightly impacted the northern coast of Cuba, making a northerly course change and impacting the Gulf Coast region on August 29th as a Category 3 storm with winds of 130 knots. Its actual landfall point was over eastern New Orleans and along the Louisiana-Mississippi border, although its effects were evident from central Louisiana to the Florida Panhandle. According to reports and weather stations on the ground, hurricane-force winds over 74 knots were evident some 90 miles from the center of the storm, while tropical storm-force winds, anything over 34 knots, were evident over 200 miles from the center. During the storm's impact on the Gulf Coast, many individuals experienced harrowing effects to both life and possession. Once I actually was able to fly down to the region in October, I heard of stories from friends and family of the 12-hour ordeal that they ensued. Many friends decided to ride out the storm, as many people in the southern states like to do. They don't think that any storm is going to beat them, and they like to ride them out. This one was actually one they shouldn't have rode out. I heard of stories from friends and families. In fact, my mother spoke of her time when she actually was in the neighbor's house. I told her to go there. She was in a neighbor's house with her friends during the storm, and huddled in the bathroom. Hurricane-force winds and the gusts blew down a tree, sent the tree through the side of the house that was actually there to protect them. My brother, he was there, had his apartment ready to go. But he was in a flood-prone area, and so his towels on the inside and the sandbags on the outside weren't enough to keep from the water coming into his house. Some friends spoke of when the actual final crack of the wind breaking the power lines, and they went out. And it was only 2 hours after the storm had reached the shore. They had another 10 hours left to go. So once the storm moved north of the Gulf Coast region and the skies cleared, everyone was allowed to at least look at what they were experiencing. Entire regions of New Orleans was inundated in water. Many people call New Orleans a city in a bowl. So it's surrounded by water, which is what they mean by that. So you have the Mississippi River to the south and to the west. You have Lake Pontchartrain and the Gulf of Mexico to the north and the east, respectively. And so where the storm came in, it pushed all the water up the Mississippi River, overflowed those banks. Then it came up eastern New Orleans and pushed all that seawater into Lake Pontchartrain, and then overflowed those banks on the north side. So a lot of the communities inside New Orleans were inundated with water. So some days later, I mean, after the streets were cleared for the local businesses and everything, you still had people that could not get to their areas. And so when it all comes down to it, a lot of these people ended up leaving and evacuating because they had no place to live. When after it was all said and done, there was no power in the region. Some areas didn't get power back until the end of November. And you're talking about a storm that happened in August 29th. And they didn't get power back until the end of November. So everyone was living off of generators and gasoline if you could find it. If you couldn't, then and you didn't have a house to go back to, you pretty much hopped on a bus and went to some far off place. And sometimes it was as far off as Utah or Idaho. And for a lot of people from New Orleans that lived there all their lives, that's exactly what they had to do. So, in conclusion, I hope everyone understands at least a little bit, a 6-minute version of what it was like to live or have family during Hurricane Katrina. Thank you.